All right. There we go. Aw, crap. I forgot my camera. Aw, jeez. Hold on. I'm a little out of it today. Hold on. There it is. Hello. There we go. We got it. Oh, that's a little center. That's what I get for jostling it around earlier this weekend, trying to rearrange a few things. Hold on. Hold on. One of these days I'll actually be ready to stream. Is there just me, or is the color off a little bit on this thing? Hold on. Okay, that looks a bit better. Looks a bit better. Okay, we'll call it good enough. Hello there. I'm EnviroBoy. This is my channel. Welcome. Welcome here today. Oh boy. How's it going, guys? Good to see everyone here. We are going to I'm gonna go ahead and get a little bit of writing going here once I get everything all set up here. I'm frazzled and out of sorts today. But we'll get there. We'll get there. Hold on. Hold on. Here, in the meantime, let me try and angle the camera down. Enjoy my cat as she snuggles on my lap. She'll entertain you by being a fuzzy little ball of fluff. And she's a sweetie. So you guys can enjoy her for a second while I struggle to figure out what the heck I'm doing here. How do I stream? What on earth is this? How do I do this? This is too complicated. I can't handle this anymore. I'm scrambling to get myself kind of back on track. I had stuff going on earlier today that was super awesome, fun stuff, but it threw off my schedule a little bit. And so I'm trying to get myself back on track here. But we'll get it going here. We'll get it going, and we will be off and running in just no time at all. Don't you worry. Let's see. We can close that tab out. Close that tab out. There we go. All right, hold on. I'm almost there. I swear. I swear to all that is good. All right. Okay, I think I got everything. Hold on. All right. Kitty would like her privacy so she can nap properly. Hold on, let me get the camera back. There we go. Alright. Alright, camera's good. Yeah, I swear the color's off, or maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm going insane. I don't know. Whatever. Let's just get going. There we go. There we are. Yeah, I think the lighting is going a little weird in here today. I think me screwing around with the camera has messed with the balance of it a little bit, but I'm not going to subject you to watching me sit here and struggle with it. Instead, y'all get to sit here and watch me struggle to actually write things. But yes, so today is a Monday, and it's Valentine's Day. Uh-oh, Kitty got excited. Uh-oh, there's a squirrel outside. Oh, hey, the color's fixed itself. Look at that. Now it looks much warmer and closer to a sepia tone. Great. But yes, we've only got an hour because I was late. It's all on me. It's my fault. But we're going to work on our campaign a little bit, our ongoing campaign project. Meant to be a full campaign that runs players from level 1 to level 10. I will give the world's fastest rundown of what we've done so far so that way we can actually get a little bit of work done. So we'll do marathon, hardly going to describe anything, overview of what we've created in the campaign so far. So far, what we have, it is a homebrew campaign. Takes place in my homebrew world of Zeoria, which is what we are looking at right now. Post-apocalyptic world, most of the world is in shambles, blah, blah, blah. Premise of the campaign. This city wants to make a road down to this city. Real dangerous in between here. Our players are part of that initiative. It takes place in this hex right here. We go to the map of that hex. Bada bing, bada boom. We're here. Starts here. Dragon shows up, says stop. People say, please, Dragon says, okay, find 4 keys for me so I can go here, and then you can go down there. People say, okay. Players go to find keys. Make it up to mountains. Find 1 key with giants. Go back. Next clue says, find key in old dwarven city. Players go there. Find Duragar. Then find key. That's where we're at so far. Boom. Perfect, detailed, descriptive rundown. No one has any questions. Great. Oh my god. Can you imagine if that's how school went? If it was like, okay, kids, today is going to be rundown of World War II, okay? Hitler, bad man. He say Jews must die. Rest of the world says, not cool, dude. They show up and beat Hitler. The end. World War II. Done. Also, Japan played a role. Bada bing, bada boom. History in a nutshell. Alright, anyway. So that's where we're at. We've been working on the step in the campaign where players are working to get that key that was with the dwarven peeps in the abandoned dwarven city. Well, it was with the Duragar peeps in the abandoned dwarven city, which is down here, and they're going to the vaults of Kagdaral, and that's kind of what we've been working on. We have a few different stages of it. Started off with leaving the dwarven city, go through 1 part of abandoned dwarven city, go through 2 part of abandoned dwarven city, go through tunnels towards vaults, and then go through more tunnels towards vaults, get to vault, tunnels collapse, boom. They escape and they're now in the woods outside of the thing. They come out of the hole in the ground and they get to the forest and they're going through here. Now, we finished off last time. Let me pull up the right tab here, the correct tab. Where is it? Dwarven Vaults. Here we go. So we finished off the last session. We had kind of assigned what types of dangers and stuff are going to exist in the different regions of this forest. And so today, all we have left, that really means that for this chapter, just like sort of chapter 5 of this campaign, we're kind of done except for adding the details of all of these rooms. Which is awesome. We've made great progress, and once we finish that, we'll kind of be at the halfway point. Not really, because all the chapters get more and more involved as players level up higher and higher. I mean, obviously, because there's going to be more challenges, more difficult things for them to face, and just more that they'll have to do to continue to level up, right? So it's going to get more and more complicated. So we're probably more so like a third of the way done in terms of the writing that has to be done. But in terms of, like, you know, the player's progress, they'll be, like, halfway done with their mission. So that's pretty cool. And we talked about last time how this little stretch here, this final part of Chapter 5, is going to be kind of a different feel than what the chapter was leading up to this point. Because leading up to this point, it had been kind of like a horror type of thing almost, right? Where they were kind of in these underground tunnels facing all kinds of like horrible monsters. And then we get to this last part here, and it turns into kind of a monster hunt type of thing where we're essentially giving them like a King Kong type of monster that they can either choose to hunt or attempt to ignore. But this monster is going to be there as well as like a tribe of half-ogres that are running around hunting this King Kong fellow. And it's going to be kind of up to players on whether or not they try to ally with these ogres or not. And like the default is basically going to be if players choose not to ally with these guys, then these guys are going to kind of see the players as enemies more than anything, and they'll have to kind of deal with that. I'm dropping things. Oh, well, whatever. And so they'll have to do that. Oh, Beans, we're getting raided. Beans. It's happening. Everything's just going insane today. What is happening today? I can't figure out what's happening. There's so many people here. Welcome, everybody. Come join us. I was just kind of giving the rundown of what we're working on today. So it's actually really good timing for you guys to all drop in here. Welcome. Welcome. Let them all pile in. Oh my goodness gracious. Alright, as I was putting lotion on my hands too, my horribly, uncomfortably chapped hands, because it's cold and winter is the worst. Oh my goodness. Okay. Alright, I promise I'll try and get my bearings here and do everything. Welcome everyone. Come on, pile in, pile in. So we're working on this sort of final stretch of this chapter of the campaign that we're working on. And the premise of it is it's gonna be oh man, dry lips. That's the worst. That's the absolute worst. I feel your pain. I feel your pain, my friend. But yeah, so we're setting up kind of a mini dungeon that's kind of a mini monster hunt. That's gonna include basically, functionally, we're putting in King Kong, and there's going to be a giant ape that's running around, and players will potentially be able to fight this thing if they choose to. If they want the glory, they can go for it. If not, they can kind of ignore it, because at this point in this chapter of this campaign that we're doing, they'll have already achieved what they set out to achieve in this chapter. They'll have already found the item, and so if they want to just like quickly get out of Dodge and get back home, they're more than welcome to do that, obviously, at any time. But we're going to sort of provide that for them, and the sort of like incentive is that the other like tribal half ogres living in this area are going to be all like, "Oi, we don't like you guys intruding on our space either, but if you help us hunt this thing, then maybe we'll let you go. If you don't help us hunt this thing, then screw you, we'll kill you too." So like that's kind of the emphasis we're going on here. It's a little flimsy. There's not a lot of story going on in it. But like I say, we've already pumped this chapter full of story, and our players have kind of already achieved it. And so basically at this point in time, we're just giving them a fun little side quest of like, yeah, if you guys want to be murder hobos, this is the chance. Like, go slice and dice and have some fun with it. Secret Godzilla vs. King Kong. I mean, they do have dinosaurs. They do have dinosaurs. We could essentially just like take a T-Rex, give it fire breath, and call it a day. So we could do that. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Like, it's really good to balance like story-heavy concepts, right? Like, it's really good to balance those parts of a game with something that's like simple, doesn't require a whole lot of thinkiness, right? Sometimes it's okay to just let them indulge in that murder hobo. I mean, anyone who's ever DM'd knows that pretty much all players are eventually going to go murder hobo anyway. Like, it's going to happen, so we might as well give them permission to do it every once in a while where they won't be punished for it. So that's just, sometimes it's, as a DM, you have to make your own fun, and for me, a lot of the fun is punishing them for the stupid things they do, such as killing everyone that moves. But sometimes messing with players means doing the bait and switch, which in this situation is no, yeah, you did everything exactly right. Yep, that was 100% the way to do it. Being violent, aggressive assholes is perfect. Exactly. Well, like, that's one of the things about these types of games. It's one of these things. Hey, thanks for the follow. Oh my gosh, that's blah 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 shades. That's an awesome name. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate you. But yeah, no, you're right. They like the nature of these tabletop RPGs is that like you create these characters that have all these super awesome badass combat abilities, and then just like occasionally, almost as an afterthought, there's also like, oh yeah, and maybe you can also like talk your way out of something from time to time if you so choose. It's like such an afterthought having thrown those things into the game. So it's like it's expected that players would choose to get all aggressive and violent with things, but yeah, it's I don't know. I give my players a hard time about it all the time. I really like messing with it and just making fun of them for being super violent bastards. But like I say, as a DM, you kind of have to make your own fun, because like the whole point of a DM, like a DM's existence is to lose, essentially. Like, you run a game where the players are supposed to win, and you run all of the opposition to the players where they're supposed to be the winners. So it's like they are meant to lose, or the DM is meant to lose while the players are meant to win. So you have to find your fun in other ways. And for me, it's making them feel bad about winning. That's how I choose to go about it. But all right, so for this first room, so let's take a look again. Let's kind of take stock of the map that we're working on. So we've already kind of made the bare bones of the map here, right? This is our like dungeon map, so to speak. We're playing kind of fast and loose with this one, because this is meant to be like a long trek through the forest that might take a good 12 hours or so to get through. Is sort of the point of this thing. Oh my God, there's a squirrel going nuts out there right now. Man, my cat is having a field day with this. Boy, oh boy. But yeah, like this is meant to be a big, long forest journey. So we're playing kind of fast and loose with the way this map is set up, right? This map implies that, you know, you only got to walk about 15 feet to get from area to area. But, like, functionally speaking, it's meant to be a much larger, much longer trek. Like, we have these areas that are maybe true to size. And this, rather than being, like, 10 to 15 feet, is more like, you know, 1 or 2 miles of forest that you have to travel through to get through all of these areas. Like, these sort of pathways through the woods. So it's going to be a bit bigger in scope, but really that's neither here nor there when we're trying to describe things, other than that we don't need to worry about trying to, like, hide things too much, because players aren't actually going to be able to see from room to room, right? Room to room. But this is the map that we're working on, and our players are coming up from underground from the last part of the chapter over in here, and they'll eventually be making their way down here, which is where the return to the dwarven city that they came from is going to be. So, and really what we're doing, if I'm remembering the way we set it up, and we can double check it when we go back to our notes page, our King Kong makes his nest around in here. So if they choose to accept that, they'll kind of make their way through here, but it lends to itself, it lends to that idea, like I'm saying, where if players are kind of like, you know what, we're hurting, we've been in a rough situation, we haven't been to civilization, our characters haven't been to civilization in a while, you know, we're hurting, we just need to get back to the city with our spoils, you know, we found what we came here for, let's get out of here. They have ways to bypass it if they're being attentive to stuff, but it's there for them if they want to. And I'm totally cool with not forcing them to do that battle in this scenario, because we'll have already subjected them to a handful of boss battles at this point. So it's gonna work out well. I think it'll be a solid dungeon, a good reprieve from all of the sort of much darker, more intense, more gritty, more mandatory things we've been giving them. Oh yeah, when PCs are convinced something is happening and it's not. Yeah, no, that's one of my favorite things, is just to like give the really vague, like, players are like, oh, I want to do a perception check. I think something funny is going on here, and there's like genuinely nothing there, but they roll a 12, and you're just like, you don't see anything, and you like emphasize see. So it's like the player, through just like human psychology, is like, oh god, I didn't see it, but there's something there. What's there? And it's like, you know, you just play dumb. It's like, your roll said you didn't see anything, and you just kind of keep doing that. I love doing that kind of stuff. I do that all the time to my players. Drives them insane, and they never catch on. I could do it 15 times a session, every single session for a year, and they would still be like, oh god, he said there doesn't seem to be anything. Like, oh my god, that means there's something there. It's like, no, it just means that there doesn't seem to be anything. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't, but there definitely doesn't seem to be anything. I don't know. Everything else is just your own paranoia destroying your mental health. I don't know. Oh yeah. Or if you throw a mimic at your players one time, and they immediately start like quintuple checking every single chest to make sure they're not about to get their hands bitten off. That's when you take the like true audible format, and if they do that every time, like, let them do that every time, and then the first time when they get really poor checks, or like those middling checks, right, where it's like like you set up like, oh, they needed a 14 to notice, but they got a 13, but they think that's probably good enough. You say like, no, it doesn't seem to be a mimic, and that's when you like just like throw the audible and make it a mimic just to mess with them. Like, that's if you really want to be adversarial with your players, which, you know, some days. Alright, so there's going to be an easy battle in this first thing. They're going to come up out of ground, and they're going to come up in the middle of a bunch of enemies here. We've already kind of determined the enemies. There's going to be, so we're playing kind of fast and loose with stuff, right? So I try to stick with monsters to being like rules as written type of stuff, at least as far as stat blocks goes, just because there are so many stat blocks out there that there's really not much point in creating something from scratch. So I'll do this a lot, and I've made a note here where, like, because we have the giant ape, the King Kong, we're going to give him, like, he's going to be in charge of, like, a whole colony of apes that are just running around, you know, attacking everything, stealing your medications, you know, pooping in your tent and all that kind of stuff, like, things that apes do. And so we're going to have them running around, but we needed a specific level of difficulty about these creatures to make sure it matches up with our player level and the stage in this chapter that it is, because I always step up the difficulty as a chapter goes on in a campaign. Like, it starts off, you can kind of see, I'll just roll this up here really quick just to demonstrate, right? If we go up here, so like the first stage of this one, right, we can see that like an easier creature, we're throwing like half, like challenge rating 1/2 up to like a mini boss of a challenge rating 3 at them. But by the time we get to the end of it, right, the idea is that things keep ramping up and getting more difficult. So by the end of it here, our easiest things are a challenge rating 1, while our boss is a challenge rating 7. Right, so we kind of keep ramping up that difficulty. And because I wanted to make sure I was adhering to that, we didn't really have a good monkey or ape creature. And so that kind of left me with two options. There was, again, you can just kind of start from scratch and try to create your own ape. But honestly, that's way more work than is necessary. Because the game already has, you know, our cave bears, which if we scroll up here, we can see they have bite and claws. You can easily say the claws are just like sharp ape fingernails, right? And like, apes will definitely bite things that they don't like, and keen smell is a reasonable enough thing, right? Speed 40, especially if you say 40 through the trees, something like that. This stat block on its own is not set in stone as a cave bear. We can really play fast and loose with this. So rather than trying to create a new stat block from scratch, which was ultimately going to end up being something exactly like this, we're just going to say it's cave bears, and we're just saying skinned as apes, right? So they're just like, they're apes running around using a cave bear stat block. But it makes our job a lot easier as world builders, especially if we're trying to throw in these stat blocks, right? When we're trying to kind of slap all of this stuff on. Because my approach to writing campaigns is that of a world builder. Like, I was into world building long before I was into D&D. I just had a lot of fun imagining, creating, and writing out the details of fictional worlds. And so my approach is always to do it that way. And then we're just kind of like, you know, slapping on some stat blocks so that we can make a game out of it. And so because we're taking that approach, it just doesn't make sense to make more work for ourselves by trying to create a new monster or change our vision, right? Change the entire setting because we can't find a good monkey enemy at the right challenge rating, right? We've got these tools, and we can play fast and loose with them to create the experience we want to create for our players. So that's kind of what we're doing here. And with that in mind, I think a really good opener to this, because that's going to turn into being sort of the key emphasis on this portion of the campaign, I want to go ahead and throw them like headlong into a battle with a couple apes that are here, right? They're going to go up and show up on a couple of apes that are just like chilling on the grass or something. I don't know. It doesn't really matter what they're doing, because they're just going to see our players coming up out of the ground, and the apes are going to get all kinds of territorial and start, you know, like throwing poop and attacking them and whatever. So we can just throw that in there, and this is mathematically works out really easily, because I've sort of, through the system that I use, I've kind of already predetermined that an easy battle is going to be worth about 900 experience points. And I use experience points, but it kind of functionally ends up being the same as challenge rating. It's just if you do experience points, I find it's a little easier to mix and match different challenge ratings and different enemies to get the type of battle you're looking for, just like conceptually, because there are mathematical ways of doing challenge ratings and stuff. But when you're using experience points, it kind of takes away that extra layer that the challenge rating represents. And you can just kind of play fast and loose, and it makes it feel a bit easier, I find, to kind of mix it up and throw a little bit more or take a little bit off, but still maintain within the same basic challenge level that you're looking for out of it. So for this one, you know, our boss battle is going to be worth about almost 3,000, it's going to be worth 3,600 experience points. We've got our giant ape worth almost 3,000, and then we can like throw in a couple other apes or something like that just to give some fodder and make it more of a challenge for them. But anyway, you know, thanks for coming to my TED Talk. I actually am planning on making just a YouTube video that talks about my method for deciding where to put how much of a challenge in different battles within different chapters of a campaign and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of a drawn out mathematical process, but it's one that I've used, and it hasn't really led me astray so far. It's not perfect, but it keeps things close enough that a quick audible of like, oh, we'll just knock 20 HP off this one monster, or I'll just refrain from using this particular lair action or something like that. And it makes it really easy to sort of maintain the right difficulty level in a battle, the system that I use. So I'm planning on making a video about that one of these days when I actually have time to sit down and make a dedicated video. Lord knows when that'll be. But the short of it is I've kind of predetermined, and this easy battle is going to be worth about 900 experience points. And if we've got, we're using our Cave Bearer as ape stat blocks, right, for 450 experience points apiece, slam dunk easy, we're just going to chuck 2 of these guys at him. So we'll just go ahead and do 2, make our little note here of 2 of these guys. We'll just go like this. Throw that right there, and then I always do also, just as a note, put the amount of experience each one is worth individually. So that way, if like it comes to a battle and one of the other monsters escapes, or they choose to like let it live or something like that, I know how much experience points to subdivide and hand out that way. Because at least as far as combat element goes, I stick with the experience points, and then I will also, if I feel it's appropriate, dole out extra experience points for like role-playing solutions. Like, and what it kind of comes down to is, like, if they role-play their way through a boss encounter, I will give them the experience points for having killed that boss, just sort of then substituting the word killed with defeated, right? Because if you talk your way over it, then and manage to get your way out of having to deal with a boss or something along those lines, that counts as having overcome that challenge. But if we put in our experience points, it makes it a little bit easier to sort of subdivide and not be just arbitrarily like, well, 7 of the bad guys got away, but here's the 700 experience points for them anyway. It's like, nah, if they got away without our players having been the ones to convince them to run away, then you failed. You don't get that experience. No way, screw you. You got to earn that crap. Oh, jeez. That's amazing. That's amazing. That they didn't even think to look. I do that with players a lot. I really like that story. Shades the concept of, like, it's always fun for me. That's always fun when that happens, because it's just a turnaround from normal. Because usually, at least for me, my players are pretty typically like hyper obsessed with perception and investigation, so they like always are looking for more stuff than there actually is. So I really like the idea of, like, I really like the turnaround of them having decided, or just for whatever reason not investigated some sort of noise, and then it like results in this really dangerous thing. And the reason I like that is because you know that's going to build a ton of paranoia in players, and that's just going to make them double down on obsessively checking other things, which you can still exploit and mess with them so hard. Like, it's just like, if you ever want to feel like a supervillain, like if you ever want to feel like a Bond villain that's always in charge of the situation, be a DM, because it's all fiction, and you can basically manufacture whatever situation you want that will make you seem like a brilliant person. All you got to do is just not do the Bond villain thing of explaining wow, that was my plan all along. Like, as long as you don't do that, then like, yeah, then it's perfect. Oh, they never found out? That's funny. That's really funny. Well, and see, that works out really well too, because then you can just recycle that encounter, right? If they never found out what was going on, then you can just, as the DM, say like, well, great. Next time they bypass something that I was planning on taking up 3 different sessions. The next time they bypass that and I'm scrambling to have stuff done, you can pull that already completed thing and just be like, all right, well, it's here now. Blam! Just slap it down there and you're good to go. It's why it's actually genuinely why I really like designing my campaigns in sort of this chapter set up the way I do it, because that way, like, it keeps things kind of modular. So that way, as long as like the chapter aligns with what the players' levels are, right? If for some reason I'm behind and unprepared, I can find from another campaign that I've made a section of the appropriate difficulty and just kind of like pull it out and plug it into the one that we're doing right now, and just be like, that's okay, that's fine. I fell behind. We'll do that. And I'll just make sure, then you can just make a few quick edits to make sure the story lines up as you need it to, change the titles and names of a few people, and it's good to go. And then you just work really hard to make sure the next one's extra special, so that way the guilt doesn't eat you up from inside and stop you from sleeping at night. At least that's how I do it. I guess I won't speak for you guys, but... All right, so we know that there's going to be an easy battle here, and we also know the reward for this one is there's going to be some treasure. The one of the hard things about this section is we're going to be, because we're sort of creating this scenario that's completely removed from the story they've been involved in this chapter up until this point. We kind of have to start from scratch with a lot of things, like what the reasons are that there's treasure buried around here. You know, as you can see when we go lower, there's going to be some items, some sections where they're going to receive different bits of lore as like rewards for defeating a challenge and stuff. So we kind of have to get all that from scratch, and that does make it a bit harder because we have to kind of rethink how we're doing a lot of that. But the flip side of it is it means we can really be creative and fast and loose with all of this stuff, right? We can really just kind of make up whatever we feel like, and it doesn't really matter because we don't have to worry about it being cohesive. So, you know, silver linings are there. But initially, I want to describe, like I always do, I always like to write out like a descriptive, like short paragraph about every room. And that's just sort of to give myself insurance as a DM. So the nights when it's been a long day of work, right, but I'm still running a campaign, and I'm just like, man, my brain is not thinking properly. I don't know how to describe things. I got something pre-written out that I can just read, right? I can just read it. It'll sound cinematic. It'll sound a little robotic because I'm reading rather than riffing off the cuff, right? When you riff off the cuff, it feels a bit more natural and a bit more like in the moment, which can help with immersion. But as long as you have a good description, even if it feels like you're reading a storybook, it'll paint that picture for players and they'll be good to go. And that way you don't need to worry about forgetting any details that you had planned for the room. So I always like to do a little bit of a narrative. And so for this one, we can kind of be a little extra descriptive because this is the first room the players will be interacting with in this particular dungeon here. So we can say something along the lines of, I don't know, as you all climb out of the hole and leave the tunnels behind, a wave of fresh air washes over you. This is the first time in many nights. In many nights that you have experienced an atmosphere not filled with the damp, dirty. Let's change that a bit. Filled with the damp, musty odors and heavy air of the caves below you. It is refreshing, and you feel a relief that you didn't know you needed. Like you just kind of offer a little bit of a description like that. We're kind of forcing a little emotion on the player characters, right? Because we're kind of describing how the player characters feel in this situation, but for the sake of immersion and sort of setting up a mental image, I think it serves pretty well, and this is pretty non-intrusive. Like, I think most people would agree, unless you're like Gollum or someone, you're probably going to feel pretty good about getting a breath of fresh air after being in tunnels that are filled with monsters and dead people. So I feel like we can go ahead and take a little bit of liberty on this one. So we can kind of establish that. But then we're gonna, like, you know, the triumph is gonna be short-lived because we'll go ahead and cut him down a little bit by saying something along the lines of we'll just go ahead and say, however, this relief is short-lived as you suddenly hear a low growling sort of noise coming from the other end of the clearing. As you look, you see two large apes, both the size of a very large, actually we'll just say both the size of a Goliath. Of a Goliath, like we're gonna parenthesis and take out the O. No, Goliath. As you look, you see two large apes, both the size of a Goliath, at the far side of the clearing. It's hard to say for sure, but if you had to guess, you would think that these creatures are not happy to see you. And then that's when you give them the roll initiative, you know, cue Pokemon battle song, and then they can fight these things. And then we give them the battle. I'm not gonna worry too much about giving them, like, a lot of times I'll put notes about, like, if players decided they wanted to try and be stealthy, or if they wanted to try and listen ahead or something like that. Normally I'll give them a bit of options, and I'll put in some contingencies for that, but because they're first entering this and their option is to go through the hole here or die in the tunnels that have collapsed below, we're kind of forcing their hands, and because of that I feel like we don't really need to give them a whole, like, we don't need to ask them, I should say, we don't need to ask them for any sort of roles for like hearing ahead of time, because it's not like they're going to really change what's happening, and because they're emerging into a big clearing that these monsters are already in, right, it's not like they can try and emerge in a sneaky way. Like, they're gonna be seen by these apes, right? So it's like the best they could do is try to stealth and maybe get the drop on the apes. So, like, if I'm feeling generous, I might, you know, just like sort of fast and loose allow them to do something like that. But as a baseline, I just don't think it's necessary here, because they're entering a clearing where these apes are. It's going to come to a head. Like, the apes won't be able to get any sort of secret attacks on the players, but then, you know, vice versa is true as well. So I think we're good as that. I don't think we need to add any other sort of notes or anything in this situation. As far as the treasure here goes, sometimes I'll make it plain as day that it's just lying in the center of the room that they can get their reward. And other times I like to kind of hide it. I think in this instance, I feel like trying to hide it just because, like, they're first emerging and they're first entering the dungeon. I don't want to be too nice to them right off the bat, right? I mean, that seems a little, it seems a little like begging, right? Like begging, I'm a good DM, you like me, I'm not going to kill you immediately. It's like, no, screw that. I am the computer of this game, and this is like, it's like Dark Souls. There's no easy, medium, or hard setting. This is the hard part of the of this chapter of the campaign. You gotta deal with challenges. So we're gonna go ahead and hide the treasure a little bit. New treasure, just as our note for the reward here, and then so I'm gonna put the note up front so I don't forget about it. I always put the notes in a different color. It's essential to make sure you mark things that are DM only in some way, shape, or form that are separate from players. I like to just do a different colored font because that way it stands out. But then if that's all the differences, if I'm not using different text boxes and stuff, I can just put the notes right in the description where they become necessary. So that way I only have to look in one place to find the things that I'll describe to players, find the things that I need to ask for rolls for, and then find what I need to say to them after they've either passed or failed that roll. So it just makes it really easier from a reading standpoint. Doing separate, like, text boxes and stuff like that, I find is a little challenging, and this might just be me. But if you have like 5 different text boxes, you might forget which ones you're supposed to read at what times, and so you might accidentally overlook a challenge that you were supposed to present to your players, and then by the time you realize it, it's been too late. So if you just put it in the stream of consciousness where it belongs, it's a lot easier to make sure you don't forget those types of things, I find. There's not any sort of hard, set, fast rule about that, but just my recommendation if you're not quite sure how you want to handle writing those types of things in your game. Sorry, one second. My very old phone is struggling in the battery department these days. So we have to plug it in from time to time. Okay. So I'm just going to put a little note here. We're just going to say treasure is in a, we'll say a satchel, just because I have a hard time saying the word hanging sack. I know I'm immature. I'm well aware of it, and that's exactly why I don't give myself the opportunity to accidentally giggle while I'm trying to describe scenes and be like a DM that's in charge of the immersion. So we're going to say a hanging satchel Treasure is in a satchel that is hung high in one of the trees. No real clue about how it got there. We'll just leave it like that, honestly. Like, it's just there. It's a mystery. I don't know. It's been there for 1,000 years. Who knows? Whatever. DC, I don't want to make it too hard for him. So we'll say DC 12 to notice. So we'll do that. And then we can do our description if they do find it, right? We can do that afterwards. If they don't find it, then we just don't read the description, and that's fine. So as you scan the clearing around you, something odd up in the canopies catches your eye. You aren't sure at first, but the longer you look at it, the more you can see that this is some sort of satchel or carrying case that has been hung in the tall branches of the tree. So just like a little description like that. The other thing that I'm going to do here, just to really mix it up and make it kind of fun here, DC, we're going to make it a little difficult. DC 14 to get it down. And so this is one of the tricks that I've learned to do for myself a lot, and you can take it or leave it depending on what serves you and how you design campaigns if you're writing your own stuff. Unless there's a very good reason for it, I don't write down what check I need them to make, right? So I say DC 14 to get it down. I'm not saying whether or not that's like meant to be acrobatics, not like, or it's meant to be strength or whatever, because I know that DC 14 is how hard I want it to be to get that thing down. But frankly, I don't really care how players do it. If they want to say, oh, well, I'm just going to try and like rip the tree out from the trunk with its roots because I'm a barbarian and I can like be really strong and I'm really good at that, I'm like, yeah, great job, playing to your strength, make a roll, right? Or if there's someone else who's like, well, my guy's really acrobatic, so he's going to do some like gymnastics moves to climb up that tree. You know, I don't want my response to be like, oh, I didn't plan for acrobatics. I had only done like an AC of 12 because they have to chop it down and hit it with only an axe. It's like, nah, if you just like decide how difficult you want it to be to get that thing down, just write that, like make the note of what that DC is going to be, and then let players write the rest of that encounter, right? Let them figure out what they want to do for that. Do they want to have their guy like chuck a boomerang up there to try and like do the Legend of Zelda thing where it just like magically catches things that kind of hover over top of it as the boomerang flies back in, like some sort of weird rupee like air current that captures coins and brings them back? You know, do they want to try doing something like doing something like that? They're gonna take an arrow and try to shoot the strap of the satchel so that it falls down. It's like whatever they want to do, let them do it. Just know that that's the challenge that you're going to provide them, or rather, that's the challenge you're going to ask them to overcome. So I'll make a note like that, and then just because I like to, again, be extra prepared and go the extra mile. After getting, and see now I'm putting this next part that I would read after the note that's relevant to it, right? So I'll remember to address this first. That's why I like putting it in that stream of consciousness approach. I'll remember to address this note first before reading the next part, because this comes first. And when I see DC 14 to get it down, it's like I know, okay, so I don't read this next part about what happens when it gets down until you manage to get it down, right? And that's the type of thing that I know for me, if it's organized in separate text boxes, like it gets easy to overlook and forget those things. Hey Chaos, how's it going? It has been a while, but honestly, I'm just glad you're here now, my man. So we'll say after getting the satchel down, you rifle through its Yeah, it's not with the apostrophe. Let's see here. You rifle through its contents and find a fairly significant pile of wealth stored in it. Stored in it. No, stored in it. You don't know how or why this satchel was in these trees, but you're glad you're the one who got it down. Boom, there we go. So we just get that little description. Whoopsie, nope. Why is it being weird? There we go. That's what we're looking for. I'm doing well, my man. I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. Happy Valentine's Day to you and to everyone else who wasn't here when I first started, and wished everyone else a happy Valentine's Day. Hope everyone told someone who's important to them that they care about them and glad they're in their life. It doesn't have to just be for romantic partners. We can take it back and just share the love with all the people that are important to us. So, but yeah, so now we just need to kind of toss in a little bit of treasure here. One of my favorite tools for doing this, I'll pull up a tab here, is I go to this loot gen table here. It's not like a revolutionary tool, but it's just super convenient. It's a tool that was made by this group here, that it automatically rolls off of the Dungeon Master's Guide loot tables. And it's just a big time saver. It keeps everything pretty true to the rules as written by using those things. But it, like I say, it does all the rolling for you, so you don't have to sit there and like turn 15 pages, roll 15 dice, and figure it all out. It just does it for you and provides a list. And like, while that does take out a little bit of that sort of like authentic, dice rolling tabletop RPG, old school, you got your notebook, you roll your dice and you write down your notes, takes away a bit of that experience. Honestly, when you're trying to write a big campaign out, it's really, really helpful. And I always set it to, when it's like asking the challenge rating, I always like to set it to what the boss of that floor is. So it's like I'm providing wealth equal to what ultimately that floor is worth, is how I always do it. So in this situation, we know we've got our challenge rating 7 boss. We're going to choose our 5 to 10 challenge rating, and we're going to roll that for the loot table, even though they didn't kill the boss to get this particular loot pile. I do it equal to the floor itself. And that's just to make sure that I'm giving players an ample amount of monetary wealth in order to get things. And part of the reason that I'm comfortable doing that is because I don't really provide opportunities for players to buy big, massive, game-breaking weapons and armors and stuff like that. I just provide them the opportunity to get a lot of like your more conventional, mundane, but necessary tools like potions and stuff like that. And as far as like the big legendary items go, I emphasize more on a homebrew crafting system that I use for my players and they really like. So giving them a little extra money for me is never really a problem, because that makes sure they can go ahead and get whatever tools they feel like are going to be necessary for their adventure. And then it also just lets them feel really good, because who doesn't love opening up a big, huge pile of treasure? So nice, Chaos. That's awesome. Like, writing a new character is awesome, and I like that you got a good attitude about a character. Like, if a character's leaving a show, you're not gonna like cling on. So I think that's really cool. All right, so let's roll our loot table here. So they're gonna get in total about. I don't break down the different types of coins. And the reason I do that is because pretty much everything functionally just like comes down to using gold. Like, there's very few things that are priced on the silver or the platinum front, right, or the electrum front. It's all about gold. It's like how everything in America is based on dollars. Even though there are all these different cents and stuff like that, everything's based on dollars, and it becomes a lot more cumbersome than most players are patient. Most players have the patience to handle if you subdivide these. So I'm just gonna say our 3,208 gold. So we're gonna go ahead and write that down here. 3,208 GP for that there. Let's see. Oh wait, what do you got here? Nice. Yeah, you've got really creative character designs. That's for sure. That's for sure. Everything you always share, like in the Discord and stuff like that too. I think it's you that shares that stuff in the Discord. Like, you got a lot of really cool stuff going on, or at least you have shared stuff. But yeah, like there's people, all you guys, really, it goes for everyone in the Discord. Like, you guys got some cool creative character classes that you come up for. It's really cool. Really cool. And then we've got our art objects here. So we'll go ahead and I do itemize the art objects. Just because, like, in that situation, for the most part, my players aren't super, like, my current group of players aren't super into the itemizing of different, like, gems and stuff like that. But I always do that because depending on how tightly to the rules players want to handle magic and stuff like that, it can become necessary. So I always put it in here just to make sure I'm covered for it. Same with art objects. The other reason that's fun about itemizing art objects is if you're looking for a quick side quest, right? If you make this bronze crown have a specific like emblem carved into it or etched into it or something like that, boom, quick side quest right there. That players have to try and figure out who to return that to. So so that stuff I like to itemize. And so we'll go ahead and put in 4x 250 GP art objects 1000 GP total. So that way, if they don't care about itemizing, you just give them the 1,000 gold's worth of art, and players will be like, great, that means we got 4,208 gold. And honestly, it's no skin off my nose if that's how they want to do it. Like, I love a game that's like super into the nitty-gritty details, but I know most players are not. Most players are much more casual than that, and I'm not going to sit here and force the issue. So instead, all we'll do is we'll just go ahead and copy this and have it there in case a group does want to do that. And we can just copy and paste it there. That simple. The only thing I'm also going to do is I'm going to take off the links here because they tend to not translate very well when you click on them. Here, but there. So we got that room all kind of figured out now, and so we can now, if we want to, just sort of add a little bit of detail into our map. I like to add the sort of details to my maps, like one room at a time as I'm writing the room out, just because that way as I'm adding details, it's not like I have to change details that I've already planned out. I can just sort of like add in details that we need to. So for this one, we don't need to worry about too much. We don't put the monsters in there. We'll save that for like when I'm actually playing and putting it in the virtual tabletop system that I use, because if you put any indicators in now, it will treat those as part of the map, as part of the JPEG or whatever. That's part of the map, and you won't be able to move them. They'll just be stuck there. So you want to make sure you're doing that in the actual virtual tabletop system so they stay separate objects that can be manipulated and made visible or invisible and all that good stuff. So for this, we don't need to do a whole lot. Just to flavor it up, I think I'm going to throw in like a couple bushes just to make it a bit prettier and a bit more interesting. So we'll throw a couple bushes in there. We can do that. And then the other thing that we can do is, pretty sure we have already used, let me see here. I'm just looking for like a satchel or like a bag or a sack or something. I swear I've already used it, but I don't. Yeah, here we go. And we can just, what we can do is kind of like tuck this into like the trees there. So it's like kind of noticeable, but not really. So it's like, it just kind of adds to that immersion concept, right? So it's right there, so our players can even look in the map and see it there. But it's kind of tough to see. You need to make a bit of a roll to see it. It's like bada bing, bada boom. There we go. And the best part is I'll probably forget that I put that there, and I can't really see that well because I'm red-green colorblind, so it really looks like it's just brown on brown right now to me. So it's excellent. And there we go. Simple as that. We created our first room, which is kind of a slow process, a whole hour to make a single room. But we were kind of going over and kind of reassessing the themes and stuff we had already decided for this room and getting our bearings before we went into it. What virtual tabletop? I use Foundry myself. There are a few different really good ones out there depending on what you're after. But I like using Foundry particularly because like I'm using Dungeon Draft to make my maps, and Dungeon Draft and Foundry are really made. Like I forget which one comes first and which one comes second, but what it comes down to is the two programs play nice with each other very well. And so like when you put in dynamic lighting and doors and walls and windows and everything into a map using this program, Dungeon Draft, it incorporates all of that into Foundry so that you have interactable doors and lighting effects and stuff like that. So you can really make a pretty dynamic map and dungeon exploration experience for your players. So that's the system that I use, and I've been very pleased with it. But it is far from the only system I've heard of. Yeah, I mean, there's always the conventional Roll20 and all that kind of stuff. That one works really well. I've heard of people using like Tabletop Simulator to play D&D, right? Because you can kind of set it up, and people have built like modules and stuff for that. So there are so many different ways to do it. But I can, so like I don't really endorse one way over another necessarily. But I can say that this way is a good way to do it. I really like it. So yeah, one-time payment is also a really good reason to use things. There's no doubt about that. That's definitely one thing that I like about all that stuff. Although that said, I use a server system for Foundry. It's like a $5 a month system to like have it run on a different excuse me, to have it run on a different system than on my own, and that's just because like the firewall and VPN that I use make it really difficult for my players to connect to my system remotely as a server, and so it just is easier. It's worth the saved time and hassle to pay for a separate system to host the game for me. But honestly, like at that, to be able to use all of the tools and all of the modules that people have made for Foundry and have all of that, $5 a month that's nothing. Absolutely nothing. Especially if you and your group wanted to split the cost. Like you get a group of players that's like $1 a month for each of you. Like, come on. That's nothing. That's absolutely nothing. That's worth it. But this is what we got so far. And so now I'm looking at the time here, and it is just about 1:30 local time. It's a half hour. I don't know what hour it is for you guys. All you weirdos that live in different parts of the world than me. Jeez, why would you do that? But so yeah, it's getting towards 1:30, which means that it's getting about time for me to swap over from my writing stream to doing a little bit of video gaming. So yeah, if you want to stick around and watch me do some video games and just like keep hanging around. Otherwise, I'm gonna just do my quick little self plugs here of all of my different social media stuff, because I'm trying to be a good growing little streamer here who advertises himself. I'm so bad at advertising myself. I'm trying to learn to be better. But basically, I'm just gonna so all of my social media stuff. If you really want the shortest of it, go check out my About page on my Twitch channel, or if you're watching the YouTube VOD right now, then you can see all of the stuff in the video description down below. But the short of it all is I've got a Discord server. If you like talking about D&D, you like talking about video games, go ahead and get yourself hooked up with the Discord. I use that a lot to try and interact with people, and we like to share ideas for homebrew stuff and give each other feedback. So that's a really good place. It's also a good place to go if you're looking for just like a notification system about if I have to change when my streaming schedule is going to be for a week, or if I'm changing what days I'm streaming or anything like that. Discord is really good for that. I do have a Twitter, and in fact, let me bring back our chatting here so you can see all of my handles and everything. So I've got a Twitter, Envira Streams there. If you want updates, again, if you want notifications on when I'm going live and updates about my streaming schedule and stuff, that's what I use Twitter for. That's a really good one. Hey, no problem, Shades. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate you coming here. So you can find me at Envira Streams on Twitter if that's what you're into. If you like sort of hearing about the other stuff that I do outside of stream, I talk a lot about how I'm a kickboxing instructor. I do rock climbing, different things like that. If you think that stuff is cool, I've got a one-eyed cat. Like, if you think that stuff is cool, I've got an Instagram just to sort of share those little bits there. So if you think that stuff is fun, go ahead and follow me on Instagram, EnviraBoy Streams. And if you want to watch the VODs, if you want to see other things I've written, if you want to see different games that I played, you can check out my YouTube, EnviraBoy on YouTube. I also have a whole lot of plans and ideas on other YouTube videos that I want to do whenever I can find time to learn how to video edit and make videos. So if you want to just kind of see how all of that stuff progresses too, check me out on YouTube. Those are all good places. It's a good place to check all that stuff out. And then the last thing also is I do have a donation page. You know, I'm just a small time streamer, just trying to kind of break into this stuff and figure out how it all works and stuff like that. So, you know, there's limited resources, which limits how much stuff I can do. But if you like what I'm doing and you want to help me grow, you can always drop a donation there. It is always appreciated, never necessary, but always appreciated. And it does help me sort of look into being able to do more stuff. Hey, thanks for the follow there. Just your average Magic player. Hell yeah, man. You are anything but average to me. You are a superhero. Thank you for the follow. Appreciate you being here. Glad you had a good time. But yeah, so if you want to help me grow, you can always drop a donation, but certainly it's not necessary. I do this because I love doing it, and that is not going to change anytime soon. But those are all my self plugs. That's all of my self advertisement. I guess I also will drop the rest of this week. So my standard streaming schedule, normally, as long as other things don't get in the way, is Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, starting at 11:30 a.m. Yeah, I'm going to take a short break. It'll be like a 15-minute break, and then I'll be back doing some video gaming. Is what's going to happen, because my usual stream schedule is Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. 11:30 a.m. Eastern time is when I start up my writing streams, and we go and we write for a couple hours, and then at around 1:30, like right now o'clock, 1:30 p.m. Eastern time is when I switch over to doing video games. And I do a variety of different things that I work on writing throughout the week, and a variety of different games that I play throughout the week. So that's my schedule, and as of right now, I'm holding to that schedule. There shouldn't be anything getting in the way of that for the rest of this week. Like I say, if you want more up-to-the-minute updates, check out the Discord or the Twitter, and I'm pretty good about that. But yeah, that's what we got going on this week. So like I say, right now I'm just going to take like a 15-minute break, just rest my voice really quick, refill my beverage and stuff like that, and then we'll be back. I'm continuing my playthrough of Neverwinter Nights, which it's a long game, but it's fun, and it's a really good one too for this channel, because if you like the D&D stuff, it's an opportunity to sort of watch how I approach D&D as a player, since Neverwinter Nights is kind of an old school D&D video game. So we're going to have that going on in like 10-15 minutes. So if you want to see that, just stick around. I'll leave you here on just sort of a waiting screen with our nice chill music going in the background. And so you can hang out here, listen to some music. There'll be a bit of a blip while I swap over the streams, just for the sake of the VODs and everything like that. So there'll be a short pause, but then I will be right back into it, and we'll be playing some games, and we'll just go ahead and kick off our week with some Valentine's slaying monsters in caves with Neverwinter Nights. So I appreciate everyone who stopped by, though. If you're not sticking around, if you got other stuff to do, I totally understand that, and I just appreciate you stopping by at all. It means a lot to me. I really do have a lot of fun with this stuff. It's a whole lot of fun. I really like sharing ideas. I like hearing about the ideas that you guys come up with too. It's a really cool way to spend some time, and I feel pretty lucky that I get to do it with my time. So thank you so much to everyone who stopped by. Go ahead and stick around. I will be back shortly. So sit tight, and I will see you very soon, everybody. Where's my thing? There it is. There we go. See you soon.